And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Today's sea ice analysis showing ice starting to form here along the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, and that's going to continue through this weekend and into the first of next week. And for tonight's weather, again, next storm bringing gale force winds and heavier rain into the southeast coast tonight as it dries out here over southern Alaska. So I'll have a band of light snow and snow showers here from the Yukon Delta northeastward toward the upper Yukon Valley areas. Dry and cold to the north of that, some flurries for the Arctic coast. Light winds, no storms out over the Bering Sea tonight, tomorrow. And this system weakens. The front keeps it wet over the southeast coast. Strongest wind shift up to the north coast there, probably coming under gale force in the afternoon. Dry here, maybe some sunshine, south central Alaska. Cloudy though with a chance of showers for the Prince William Sound area, areas of light snow, eastern central Copper River Basin to the Alaska Range. And then for Sunday, showers lingering over the Panhandle and the North Gulf Coast here. This low really weak now, but still kicking off a few showers, Prince William Sound. Cloudier skies over south central Alaska. Still could be some sunbreaks though, especially Kodiak Island. Clear and cold to the north and west, and no storms out over the Bering Sea. And for the coastal water forecast, again for tonight with that storm coming northward here, central and north coast, gale warning, south to southeast winds 35 knots over the inside waters, small craft advisories, south to southeast winds 25 to 30 knots with seas around 6 feet, but up to 20 feet here for the north coast. And then for Sunday, much lighter winds, southeast 15 to 20 knots on the south coast, and otherwise east-southeast winds 10 to 15 knots to the north. Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage, southeast winds 15 knots, 2 to 3 foot seas. Clarence Strait, southeast at 20 with 5 foot seas. Prince William Sound, light winds, breeze out of the north tomorrow at 15 knots, 3 foot seas. North to northeast winds 20 to 25 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast, lighter here to the west, north at 15. Kamishak Bay, Barren Islands, northwest winds at 20 knots, and Cook Inlet, north winds 10 to 15 knots, 3 to 5 foot seas. And for Sunday, north breeze at 10 knots for Cook Inlet, west 25 knots for Kamishak Bay, otherwise the Barren Islands north at 20. Seas both those areas at about 5 feet. Light variable winds for the western North Gulf Coast, becoming southerly at 15 around Middleton Island, and the east side there, southeast winds 15 knots for Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island, variable to west winds 10 to 15 knots for Saturday. Variable winds 10 to 15 knots for the Alaska Peninsula as well. In Bristol Bay, southeast at 15, seas only 2 feet. For Sunday, north to northwest winds 15 to 20 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. West-northwest 20 knots for Kodiak Island. North at 20 for Bristol Bay. Fox Islands, west-northwest at 15 knots tomorrow. Central Aleutians, variable winds 20 knots. And then back to north-northwest at 15 to 20 knots for the western Aleutians. And then for Sunday, more of a variable north to northwest wind at 10 to 20 knots for the western Aleutians, north at 20 knots for Adak and Atka, northwest 20 to maybe 25 knots for the eastern Aleutians, with seas there running around 5 to 7 feet, 6 to 7 feet here for Adak and Atka. And for the southwest coast, for Saturday, northeast winds 20 knots. North 15 for the Pribilofs, northeast 25 for St. Matthew Island, St. Lawrence Island, and Norton Sound. And for Sunday, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, northeast at 20 knots with 4 to 5 foot seas, and northeast at 15 for the Yukon Delta Coast, but small craft advisories here for the Kuskokwim Delta Coast and Pribilof Islands. North winds in those areas up to 25 knots. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, far eastern coast, west winds 25 knots tomorrow, diminishing to 15 knots on the central coast out of the north or northwest. East at 15 for the western Beaufort Sea coast. Chukchi Sea, northeast winds 20 to 25 knots. And then for Sunday, east winds 10 to 15 knots for the Chukchi Sea. Western Arctic coast, east 20 to 25 knots. Pretty light now for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Winds down to 10 knots from the northeast. Seas running at about 4 feet.